Hello everybody, I'm on a canal. It's unlike me to sort of come away from the land. I'm really a land lover, if I'm honest with myself. For many years I've had a great interest in the history of our canals, that great network which in its day was the motorways of Great Britain that delivered through the Industrial Revolution to the factories, to the seas, and yeah, it was the equivalent of today's HGV driver. About a year ago, a great friend of mine, Chris Randall, said to me, he says, I've got a narrowboat, why don't you come and have a look at it? And one thing and another, just never got round to it. 10 days ago he says, right, you've no choice, get your kit together, here's what you need. So come and join us, as we're going to have a couple of days on this here narrowboat, and we're going to just go and have a look at what it's like and just get a feel for the heritage of narrowboats. See you soon.
Hello, I'm Chris Randall, and come and join me on my narrowboat Daydream as I take my friend Matt out for a couple of days on two different canals, the Oxford Canal and the Grand Union Canal. Going to introduce him to some locks, we'll take him through a tunnel, and there'll probably be a couple of beers along the way. Well, I grew up in Wolverhampton and lived only about half a mile from the canal network. So as a youngster, I used to spend quite a lot of time walking and riding my bike down the canal towpaths. And seeing the narrowboats go by, I was always really, really fascinated by them, but never had the opportunity to try it. Our narrowboat adventure kicked off with the journey through the Newbold Tunnel on the Oxford Canal. The Newbold Tunnel was built in 1829, but this is not the original tunnel. The original tunnel was completed in 1777, but a new tunnel was required when the Oxford Canal was straightened, shortening the route by 11 miles. The old tunnel still exists and is mainly bricked up, although they have left some holes in it because it's now used as a haven for bats. There's something incredibly relaxing about cruising on a narrowboat, surrounded by the great outdoors, taking the countryside from a fresh perspective with only the dogs for company. The maximum speed you're permitted to do on the canal network is 4 miles per hour, so you are really forced to slow down your pace of life. The first locks that we encountered on our journey were the flight of locks at Hillmorton. Locks are on the canal network to move boats up and downhill. The Hillmorton locks are a flight of 3 locks, and when the canal was originally designed, they were single locks. However, in the 1820s, when this section of the canal was straightened, the decision was taken to duplicate the locks. So at Hillmorton, you now have 2 locks side by side. This significantly increased the speed of traffic on the canal. During the height of summer, the Hillmorton locks is one of the busiest flights in the country, and fortunately there's normally volunteer lock keepers on hand to assist you through. If you take a trip on the canal network, you are going to come across some locks. You don't need to worry about this, because if you hire a boat, the staff at the hire boat company will explain to you how to operate a lock. And that was my first experience, a hire boat from Chirk on the Llangollen Canal. The best way to think about a lock is treat each individual lock like a bathtub. It's got a plug for you to empty the water, or it's got taps for you to put the water in. If you take things slowly and in a logical order and don't try and rush it, you'll get it right and you'll be completely safe at the locks. There's different lock mechanisms on the various canals around the network, but they all work in a similar way. You'll have some form of tool for opening and closing the paddles. Sometimes a metal windlass, and you can wind up or wind down the paddle gates to let in or let out the water as necessary. When you are operating paddles, it's really important to wind them up and wind them down. Especially when going down, don't let them drop. Because if you let them drop, it damages the bottom of the paddle, and that creates leaks. And leaky locks are inefficient and waste water.
Cheers, thanks. All right.
At the end of the day, we returned to Dunchurch Marina to spend the night. Dunchurch Marina is a relatively new marina designed by the same team responsible for the Eden project in Cornwall. If you've a mooring at a marina, you will have access to shoreline power, water to fill up your water tank, waste disposal, and showers and toilet facilities. Some marinas also have laundry facilities, a cafe, maybe even a bar. We started day 2 of our narrowboat adventure, now heading south from the marina on the Oxford Canal in the direction of Broadston Junction. And this is where the Oxford Canal meets the Grand Union Canal. And as we hoped, later we managed to get the drone up in the air. This narrowboat Daydream is a syndicate boat, and I get the opportunity to use the boat 4 weeks of the year. But there are people, liveaboard boaters, who, as the name suggests, live aboard their narrowboats all year long. It's something I would be quite tempted to do, but my current work commitments don't allow me to do it. If you are going to live aboard a narrowboat, there's lots of considerations that you have to make. We passed through Broadston Junction, and from Broadston Junction to Knapton Junction, the Oxford Canal and the Grand Union Canal share the same water. Broadston's very famous on the canal network, especially for Broadston Church. Broadston Church was very important to the working boatmen. Many of them were married here, had their children christened here, and some of them are buried here. There's a real community of people on the waterways, and I do really enjoy speaking to other boaters. Some of the liveaboards are working from their boats. I've met a number of people that do this. Some people trade from their boats on the canal network, so you can get things for your boat such as fenders. There are boat mechanics who live aboard their boats and work from their boats. But there are also artists. In London there is a floating record seller, and there are canal boat cafes and bars. I've even met one chap who was a graphic designer and had his own design studio on board his boat. we turned off the Oxford Canal onto the Grand Union Canal at Napton Junction. To the working boatman, Napton Junction was known as Wigram's Turn. Very soon after turning onto the Grand Union Canal, you get to the Calcut Flight, the Calcut locks. This is a set of 3 locks, and because the Grand Union is now a broad canal, these locks are double locks, so they are twice the width of the ones we've been through at Hillmorton. Originally the locks were narrow locks, like on the Oxford Canal, but to increase traffic, these were improved and made into double locks. Double locks are quite difficult to operate if you are a single-handed boater. You can see that when you open up one gate, the gap is too wide for you to be able to jump across the lock and open up the other one. So it's quite common for single-handed boaters just to open up the one lock gate and take the boat in carefully. It's really helpful when going through these double-sized locks if you can team up with another boat. It's more efficient with the water, and a second pair of hands makes the whole process a lot easier. So, as Matt's first adventure on Narrowboat Daydream drew to a close, we found ourselves in one of the canal side pubs, and the conversation turned to, well, what next? Maybe we should do a return visit to the Cathedral of the Canals in Braunston, or I've got a future plan of moving the boat and we'll be up on the Trent and Mersey Canal and near to the Coventry Canal. But certainly a visit to Braunston and looking at the history of the church would be something we would be quite interested in doing. What do you think? What would you like to see? Let us know in the comments below.